about changing your life by helping you change your mind. And the way to do that is by helping you understand yourself better. You're spending 50 to 80% of your waking day, and you're not really much aware of what you're doing. Our subconscious mind knows everything about us. You ever heard that? Does that make sense to you? It knows everything about us. See, everything we do is a strategy for something. Have you ever found yourself doing something that even surprised you? Any of you in here have kids? You know, the thing that I'll never do that when I'm a parent. The majority of how we respond emotionally was programmed into us by age 6, and the majority of that by age 3. So the way people act emotionally, you know, when we're stressed out, we don't always make the wisest decisions, do we? Because we're stressed out, we tend to revert back to that immature response. Think about how you talk to yourself sometimes. If you kept saying some of the negative things that you say to a 2-year-old child, how would that child be when they grew up? Like that, right? And yet we do that to ourselves. So that's why sometimes when we have a feeling, we don't know where it came from. It usually came from a thought. More than 99% of what we know, we learned unconsciously. So there's a good example about how our environment is so critical, so important, because that's what we're learning from. So we are a bundle of patterns and habits. That's what we are. We're a bundle of patterns and habits. And so what happened to our potential? You know, when a child comes into the world, aren't they often told, don't we often say that how perfect they are? Every child virtually is, we say how perfect they are. Well, that was true about us. So I want to know the date and the time that you became imperfect. So the question is, what makes you happy? What makes you happy in your career? What makes you happy in your home life? What would happen in your life if not only you discovered your own full potential highest self and started living from that perspective, but began to see it in everyone that you worked with and for, and everyone who worked for you, that you began to see their full potential highest self? If we were to go into a beautiful forest, it would be amazing to just enjoy that nature. But it would be really easy to forget that each one of those plants there came from a small dried seed, wouldn't it? Each one of those plants came from a seed. And within that seed was the full potential of every one of those plants. Well, I've come to believe that that's true about us. Just like when a child comes into the world and we say how perfect it is, we actually came from seed of sort. And within us is the full potential of ourselves. Now, can you imagine, here you are, let's say you're an oak tree and you're in the forest. And you know you've been there for 50 years and you think, you know, if I was just a pine tree, then I'd be okay. But isn't that what we often do with ourselves? If I was just this way or that way, then I'd be okay. Yeah. And yet all the while, we don't really even know our own potential. We don't. Anybody ever met their full potential highest self before? Please raise your hand high.